남랭게리아 도만 치료들이슈 주하다 접지도 다 되는데 다 탐대 당화데스 당하고 드린 거다 디골 샤이 다들 탐대 당하고들이야 조다 로도는 무슨 로도 넘버시 로도 넘버시 거디나는 대존이가는 거는 친스버시 대대와도 지원만 나바다 거회님이 레균제 숨제 엔디도라 참바든지 거봐 디니디 제주 천주기 셈거봐 다들 당화 거디면에 타갱은 안에 타갱은 놈 넘버 주근 안에 다 망셔를 제자 망셔 다 주제 마스나다 주제 망셔로디 주제의 주인이 망셔로디 버지디 차디요래 함네 당하고 안드린주 달로 차상 사다 갈라가버려야지 맨다 강사사를 좀 마치아도 신스
First of all, I would like to wish everyone good morning. And this afternoon I will begin going through the next of the major topics, which is the method, the spiritual instructions. And so the method, the instructions of the spiritual master is primarily the four thoughts that turn the mind. Now we have already covered the subject of the precious human birth. And so following that, there come the topics of impermanence, the defects of samsara, karma cause and effect. And following those, there is discussion of loving kindness and compassion, then bodhicitta, so that covers the whole subject of the instructions, the method which is the spiritual master's instructions. Now, among the 6 different major sections of the work, this has the most. It has the most text. It has the most material that it covers. And so this subject, the method, their spiritual instructions, is not something that we will be able to finish, but I will go through as much of it as I can.
탐는데 나가데 셔발라 오나 다자는 유상게 있니 뭐예요 코아 통마메바네 유베 너 코아 통마메바네 유베 가슬라디나 코아 통마메바네 유베 가슬 코아 통마메는 윤도도 된데 자이야마나 돈도르데 도르데 다 가샤고서다 기브데 미르리지 아니 개개신이다 태원하라 대가 상계기 마토 상계 마토버 꾀지시 좋아이시나 대내 다잘라서는 상계 미드베 기시 왕의 규빈의 이유는 와나 상계 미드베 기시보다 강하세 체리 주를 샤와의 스베 대화를 샤와의 시베 대화를 샤와의 상계를 텀미시보 기시보다 강계선의 개신이 당화된 대냐서라왜 셀로
So the method is the spiritual master's instruction. Since we have the primary cause, Buddha nature, we have come from a continuous stream since beginningless samsara. At some time, we must have gained a precious human life and also met with a spiritual master. So what faults have prevented us from attaining Buddhahood in the past? We have been overpowered by the 4 obstacles. Then what are these 4 obstacles to the attainment of Buddhahood? Being attached to this life's activities, being attached to the pleasures of samsara, being attached to peace, and not understanding the method by which enlightenment is achieved. How can these four obstacles be dispelled? They are dispelled by practicing the instructions heard from the spiritual master.
계획 신인기 당화 지섬시잖아. domne 미다 공도 거의 님이 렌데 삼아도 참된 인지 공부도 전주 심기견. 대다 넘버시브에 당화 탐지 뉴 제바데 미다 공부 당화도 거의 님이 렌데도 제보 공부 당화도 참바도 인지 공부 당화도 전주조도 심기베 당화는 인. 대라 미다 공부네 세디 주의를 잡은 님으로 요인. 거의 님이 레준데 제보 공부네 시베 대화를 잡은 님으로 요인. 참바도 인지 공부네 거의 시외 대화를 잡은 님으로 요인. 전주조도 쓸기비 최남의 전주주비 탐면시비 님으로 요인데 깜드는 송네 남의 남이 되는 거만 연제담 야나 람아 사주 연제 심기 최송이나 대야 최커진의 심기 이된 최커진의 심기 이미바 최커진의 심기 초아 최커진의 심기 랍저 최커진의 심기 이편 최커진의 심기 인르부디 티버침비 최네 심기를 먼디버매도 대나 당화 대탐지 계획 신년의 조지 계획 신년 라라레바 이노 파버 동북괴변 돌에 계획 신년 계획 최탐지긴 중에 소写的 탐지 개발에 계획 신년이 당화라 라레写송소 대라 담부 체디 주의를 차변이 뭡니다 보고를写버 차디 대한 지리두제 탐지입니다 자 됐다
How many instructions of the spiritual master are there? The summary. Meditation upon impermanence, meditation on the faults of samsara and cause and result, meditation on loving kindness and compassion, and the various elements of the cultivation of bodhicitta. These four comprise all the instructions of the spiritual master. To restate, there are instructions on the meditation practice regarding impermanence, instructions on the meditation practice regarding the reflection on the faults of samsara and on the cause and result, instructions on the meditation practices regarding loving kindness and compassion, and instructions on how to cultivate bodhicitta. Thus, contemplating the subject of impermanence remedies attachment to this life's activities. Reflecting on the faults of samsara and on karma cause and its result remedies attachment to the pleasure of samsara. Meditating on loving kindness and compassion remedies attachment to the pleasures of peace. Cultivating the supreme bodhicitta is the antidote for not understanding the method by which to achieve enlightenment. These are the factors used to cultivate the mind and to develop bodhicitta. From the time one starts taking refuge until one meditates on the meaning of the two selflessness, or from the 5 paths until the 10 bhumis, all the dharmas, teachings are included in the cultivation of bodhicitta. Some practices form the foundation from which to cultivate the enlightened mind. Some are the objects of the cultivation of the mind, of the enlightened mind. Some are methods to cultivate the mind. Some are the training in the cultivation of the mind. And some are the beneficial effects of the cultivation of the mind. And some are the results of the cultivation of the mind. And thus all Mahayana teachings are included in the cultivation of bodhicitta. Therefore, all the instructions are imparted by the spiritual master, depend upon the spiritual master. Planting the Noble Stock Sutra says, the spiritual master is the source of all virtuous teachings. The attainment of omniscience depends upon the instructions of the spiritual master. The antidotes for attachment to this life, of this, the first instruction is meditation on impermanence as the antidote to attachment to this life.
대한지 뉴제 탐지입니다. 바이는 상계기 전에야 개론타 뉴제 탐지는 미다바와写송소 대한 지들입니다. 사회 탐하는 제 랑외 탐하는 게 체배 탐하는 제 쇠배 탐하는 치워인 대단의 체도 주배 처음에 사바 끊기 탄세지 랑외 탐하는 게버리 체배 탄는 잘와디 쇠배 탄의 치워는写송소 대한 지들을 겁나 dom니 예와 타는 곰도 곰바이니 편인 넘버스부터당 미다 곰바 용수 듀시에바 대라 예와는 니디 친외긴지 됩니다. 나주기 있음지 미다보 친외긴지 돼 미다바나 니디 작베 미다바다 차외 미다보 나주기 있음지 미다바나 니디 셰 미다바다 라 미다바 대다 곰베 타로 당분 친외기 라보 미다바네 마길룽기 징고네 여기 삼대시 네 면세 본디 따베라 사탄진 규메 마인디 랭간의 3대 당분 면지 면지 랭간의 3대 2번 면지 휴지 랭간의 3대 수업면 롱기 집어인 대라 메시베티 타와스면 밀리디 pena me marts washino chushi bi duso ningma zama milude pena lenza chula timbashino lungi shibi duso lama zama milude pena tawa lungi kewashino tedra chungamba zore me yunu chuji tedra chudun tene ye judo lungi jiwe she sonso samden shibe ne meju longsu yu mejide nanga simji shibe boda ranji wayino tedra ya midabai midate shemega simje jirin jungji jir shesonso 대야 다른 지dengi 감데 매지 원원의 베이징이 주변도래 개바치려는 지den디 남괴라지 남고른 교로 롬보다게 지 넘버스 제송소 니가 차외입니다바는 뒤심 교로입니다바다 니다 신업입니다바다 기짐입니다바 대라 당번에 남다 지중에도 위뇌기 지den디 서신양 뭘보 가도 말보 저신 엉어양 칸뷰데 대합니다베 미단규의 뒤시용 남다리아 중에도 있으시 알라바 카도 영원부 저신앙고에 런답게데 대한 미단규의 뒤시용 남다 뒤중에도 있으시 창부 카도 예세부 저신앙고에 지부민 대한 미단규의 뒤시용 남다 군중에도 있으시 캬바 카도 야람 저신앙원 장 감시 차的 대한 미단규의 뒤시용 님의 선업입니다바는 님의 중에도 뇌기 지된데 가르치세라 세모 중에도 나를 팁디 대양 미다 규르다오 기지미 미다바는 기지만 암에 뒤기 뇌기 지된디 기지면 치매 뒤는 미네소 네바 다른 도바는 자와 신중인데 빼는 법지 균신 나주 있으면 미다바는 니래 당보 시에 미다바는 큰수 있으면 담지 미다바인데 파바 자세를 발래 스스미다 땡게 진다셔 송소 라 미다바는 런 더니가 되와메 드로거바이나 대하는 율에 따바도 신규를 잡으니 시합을 대하 당번은 내들 거면 치와 거면 시합을 거 잡으니 시합을 자오스
In general, all composite phenomena are impermanent. The Buddha said, "O monks, all composite phenomena are impermanent." In what way are they impermanent? The end of accumulation is dispersion. The end of all building is falling. The end of meeting is parting. The end of life is death. As it says in the Uddanavarga, the verse is spoken intentionally. The end of all gathering is dispersion. The end of building is falling. The end of meeting is parting. The end of life is death. How do we meditate on this? The summary. Classification, the method of meditation, and the beneficial effects of meditation. These three comprise all the contemplations on impermanence. As to the classification, there are two types: the impermanence of the outer world and the impermanence of the inner sentient beings. In addition, the impermanence of the outer world is categorized in two parts: gross impermanence and subtle impermanence. The inner world is also categorized in two parts: impermanence of others and impermanence of oneself. The method of meditation for the impermanence of the outer world. First, consider the gross impermanence of the outer world. From down to below this cosmic mandala of wind, up to the fourth stage of meditative concentration, there is nothing that has the nature of permanence or of solidity. Nothing is unchanging. Sometimes everything up to the first stage from the first stage of meditative concentration and below is destroyed by fire. Sometimes everywhere from the second dhyana and below is destroyed by water. Sometimes everything from the third stage of meditative concentration and below is destroyed by wind. When the world is destroyed by fire, it does not leave any ash, like oil consumed by fire. When it is destroyed by water, no sediment is left, like salt dissolved in water. When the world is destroyed by wind, not even a tiny particle remains, like a heap of dust blown by a strong wind. This is explained in the treasury of Abhidharma. The world will be destroyed by fire 7 times, then once by water. When it has been destroyed by water 7 times, then it will be destroyed by fire 7 times. In the end, it is destroyed by wind. The fourth stage of meditative concentration will not be destroyed by fire, water, or wind. It naturally perishes when the sentient beings within it dies. The treasury of Abhidharma says, the impermanence of those places arises and dissolves with the sentient beings. Further, it appears that this world will be destroyed by fire. The Household Upadhyana Requested Sutra says, after one kalpa, this world, which has the nature of space, will become space. Even Mount Meru will burn and disintegrate. The subtle impermanence of the outer world. Subtle impermanence can be seen in the changing of the four seasons, in the rising and the setting of the sun and moon, and in the vanishing of the instant each instant and moment. First, by the powerful appearances of spring in the outer world, the ground becomes soft, colors become reddish, and the grass, trees, and vegetables all start sprouting. This is but a sign of change caused by impermanence. By the powerful appearance of summer, the ground becomes wet, the colors become green, and the trees, grass, vegetables, and leaves open. This is also change caused by impermanence. By the power of autumn, the ground becomes hard, the colors become yellow, and the trees, grass, and fruit ripen. This also signifies impermanence, the changing of time. By the powerful approach of winter, all the ground becomes frozen, colors fade to grayish, and the sun and the grass and trees grow dry. This also demonstrates the changing times, impermanence. Impermanence in the rising and setting of the sun and moon means that by the power of daybreak, this outer world becomes light and white. But when the night comes, it becomes dark. This is also a sign of impermanence. Third is impermanence seen in the vanishing of the instant, each moment by moment. The first moment of this world does not exist in the second moment. Each moment is similar, and because of this similarity, we are deluded and perceive them as the same, like the flowing of a river. The impermanence of sentient beings. First, the impermanence of others. From the two types of impermanence associated with inner sentient beings, the first is the impermanence of others.
Others, okay. Dila Tangbun did a gom de Chua Goma, the Chivesini Goma, Ted Zebra Goma, and Java Goma, the Chua Goma, that Jigden, the Yudin Brumi, the Chima Pension, drawing in the summer, Chivesini Goma, now so in the set, wounded and got, Lundin, Roy number, Jur. Same day, the Shension and Parkam go in Yam the summer. Ted Zebra Goma, Nanini. 답해질 로지송의 대점이 최위기 통로로 가서는 다음 페이지에 나와질는데 대점이 최위기 통로로 가자는 드림바라 샤질는데 대점이 최위기 통로로 송 다진의 답답해라 다르지 송데 다진의 답답해라 다르지 송 대점이 최 통도 송 인념도 선보 자주세베 제발은 주발에게 인생 되바 용매바 现在大多可能就是那不可能用面呢，大家就会记名就这些松索。你知道讲吧呢？他的因为大概年纪大，脑子大，累了说的记不清的那么，当然大多找是明的，你都这样一年的上报，这就是被这帮人就过来，他们这跑的这个吧，大概得点嘛些呢，些吧拉说不松索，让他去我古着一次都讲的，大眼不去。 남지 참여버 치 지경미 동뭐 치념도 삼어 태양 예버 치와를 균제 숨디 나르마시오 류베 메베치다 륜두제 임베치다 세기적인 제베치다 예버 치오 태라 나르마시오 류베 메베 예버 치와니 로베 땅 이시네 사원디 도리나 견내라라 마시오 가시 큐기 통함 퇴섬은 티좀사 시에소소 대나 장소 준주지 은시 빠도메버다 데마 남자 미시위 사조선 드레사던 탈선 미니바 탐지 치와인디 오골 따짐 대더량 장소 첨부 안근시 칼레 영린로야 가는 주 치매베 사드는 로 미니스 시에소소 대르마스기 파바랑 상게는 니들 좀 받아줘본 남자 탈꿀류 동나 오골 따짐 대더량 체도 주베 솜네 가 랑상게남도 상게남 인연되게 꿀륜디니 본전은 교배받다 미시에 송수 대레마스 안다부 저버 상게 뒤베고 전에 베식 게뭐 도지랑 시다고요 꿀륜 좋나 호골 따짐 대다랑 로변 보유시네 진이 상게남 이고 전에 베식 기게베 도지 꾸야메다 추신 부면도 류젠신라 따짐이 시에 송수 륜 류제인 비징에 버치와네 간 류제 탐전입니다 이런 류제 탐전은 직비 최진인데 체도 주베 솜래 깨만 류제납니다. 계신집을 최진이 해송소. 대나 륜디 류마체 인신 류마체 마인신 류제 인베나 미다든 에버쳐. 체 끼지긴 제베 치는 에버쳐와나 체 끼지마르는 대시 치외쇼스 녀르송아인데 대 대민외야 대다 차자와 빼나 자부신 다팡밤 리서기 외는 춤바밤 스스르치비 전신 신유도 나와인 대라 빼당부 기부 자부신 다팡밤네 반나라 시지도 깨지게 미되대 딕비 쇼스 뉴르도 침바다 체양 깨지게 미되바 뉴르도 쇼인 대다에 빼나 기부 재진기 귤레tin 다고 미되 디서 뉴르도 침 미남 체양 대신으로 셰소소 대한변이와 리서기는 추바바데 다르지게 미되바 유바다 체대한 뇌도 미도바 라버세와인 대단한 뉴바를 무시 또알래 좋아다 체대 뉴르데 리서 추다 좋아다나 집에 기위 미시데 미케롱 주 집에 뉴 셰소소 처음레게 출lun치비 균이 침미도버로 셰소소 베스바 스웨스르 집에 전에 콤바르리 포지 치와래 녀바다라 오골기 체양 대단다고 대단한 파번 주신 거래 스스로 집이 전신도 콤브리 보신 치다니 셰송소 처음레게 빼낭에 버스여봐도 콤바한다 강프로 수업에 중도 녀바도 미남 소게 되지는 셰송소 남지 참여비스 이치와 아마마마 땅에 달아갔어
All the sentient beings in the three worlds are impermanent. The Noble Profound Representation Sutra says the three worlds are as impermanent as autumn clouds. Second is contemplating the impermanence of oneself. We also have to go to another life without any choice. This may be understood by investigating impermanence within oneself and by applying others' impermanence to oneself. Investigating impermanence with oneself, meditate first on the first one in these ways. Meditate on death, meditate on the characteristics of death, meditate on life's exhaustion, and meditate on separation. To meditate on death, one should think, I myself cannot stay long in this world and will have to go to the next life. Contemplate this. Meditate on the characteristics of death by contemplating my life ends, this breath ceases, this body becomes a corpse, and this mind has to wander to different places. Simply contemplate this. Meditate on the exhaustion of life by contemplating, from last year until now, 1 year has passed, and by that amount my life has become shorter. From last month to this 1 month has passed, and my life is that much shorter. From yesterday to today is 1 day, and by that amount my life is shorter. The moment that just passed right now is the passing of 1 moment. By that measure my life is shorter. Engaging in the conduct of bodhisattvas says, definitely remaining neither day nor night, life is always slipping by, and never getting any longer. Why will not death come to one like me? Meditate on separation by contemplating right now whatever I have, my relatives and wealth, this body and so forth that I cherish so much. None of this can accompany me forever. One day soon I will have to separate from them. Contemplate that. Engaging in the conduct of bodhisattva says, up until now I did not understand that I would have to leave all things behind. Another way to practice this meditation is to contemplate the three sets of three topics. Meditate on the impermanence of death by contemplating that I will definitely die. The time of death is uncertain. There will be no help when death occurs. There are three reasons for the certainty of death. Because there is no one from the past who is alive, because this body is composite, and because life is becoming exhausted every moment, death will certainly occur. My death is certain because no one from the past is alive. Acharya Ashvagosha said, whether on the earth or in the heavens, have you ever seen any who were born but did not die, or have you ever heard of any? And still you have doubt. Therefore, even great beings who have infinite clairvoyance and miracle powers could not escape to a place where there is no death, to say nothing of people like ourselves. As it is said, great sages with the 5 types of clairvoyance could fly far in the sky and yet could not find a place where no one dies. Not only that, but noble beings, solitary realizers, the great arhat hearers, finally had to leave their bodies, to say nothing of people like ourselves. The Udanavargas says, all the Pratyeka Buddhas and the Buddha's disciples as well leave their bodies, so why wouldn't ordinary people like us? Not only that, even the perfect complete Buddha, the Nirmanakaya body with the major and minor marks and a nature like the indestructible Vajra also left the body, to say nothing of people like ourselves. Acharya Ashvagosha said, the form of all the Buddhas adorned by the major and minor marks, even his Vajra-like body is impermanent, to say nothing of other beings, bodies which are without essence like a water tree. My death is certain because this body is composite, and all composite phenomena are impermanent. Everything that is composite is of a perishable nature. The Udanavarga says, "Alas, everything composite is impermanent, so they are subject to birth and death. Since this body is not non-composite, it must be composite. Therefore, it is impermanent, and death is certain." My death is certain because life is being exhausted at every moment. Every moment life moves closer to death. We may not perceive this or be aware of it, but it can be explained with examples. As an arrow shot by a skillful archer, as water falling from a steep mountain, as a person being led to execution, life passes rapidly. In the first simile, when an archer shoots his arrow at a target, the arrow does not stop in space for one moment until it reaches the target. Likewise, our life does not stay in one place for even a moment. It approaches death quickly. As it is said, just like an arrow shot by a skillful archer, as soon as the string is released, it does not stay, but quickly reaches its target. So also is the life of all humans. In the second example, just as water falls from a steep mountain without pausing for a moment, likewise it is very obvious that a person's life does not pause. The Precious Pinnacle collection says, "Friends, this life passes quickly like water falling from a steep mountain cliff. A childish person is not aware of this and becomes arrogantly drunk on foolish wealth." Also the Udanavarga says, "Like the current of a great river which moves on without turning back." In the third example, a prisoner being led to execution, every step that prisoner takes brings him closer to death. Similarly, our lives are also closer to death in every minute. Thus the Noble Tree Sutra says, as a prisoner is led to execution, every step he takes leads him closer to death. Also, the Udanavarga says, for someone condemned to death, every step he makes draws him closer to the gallows. So also is the life of all humans.
다 근데 제가 아버지 더서 산 등엔 더서 다들이 주산 다든데 지 가르에 치와입니다 봐. 제아디네 가르에 다 개치무레스 다들이야 치와입니다 봐. 다들 치와입니다 봐. 주산 미카시지 3년 나로라 치와입니다 봐. 주산 드는 아시그리 산 동해기 코바장한데 버실로 치와 미다바 사지 드리르비지 텐디 어레스 니네아다 치와 미다바 사디 드리지 치웬 지과 치와는 지과 깨대바 something 치와라 잡아 깨대바 드리 지고 안해 치와는 지관 잡아 돈주게 깨싱을 해서 다 와나감 들려 치와 미다바 사디 고 공고에 김선 가라서나 추워입니다 버사디 다 텐주기 밀리름부치 자치부터 녀예비 인두산 데 되메도 추수 메동아 추수 봐 두주베 톨라 메동아 대 텐주를 닝불리에네 미시디 되메 이 자외 되는지 개개 봐도 시시봐 근데 가를 되메기 하는 미슬이 닝부예베 차 이 텐저기 가르에 가르 치워입니다. 뭐 공부에 전부로디 테레스
So that is about half of the chapter. Now, here it is important for us to recollect death and impermanence. But sometimes when we think about death and impermanence, we think that this means that we just think, oh, I'm going to die, and then we are somehow overcome with feelings of suffering and pain at the idea of thinking about our own death and impermanence. But actually, that is not really what we mean by contemplating death and impermanence. It's not merely fearing death, because animals as well can experience fear of death. Really, the reason why we need to meditate upon death and impermanence is that we have now gained this precious human life. Now that we've gained the precious human life, we must not let it go to waste. We must not let it slip by ourselves. Instead, we need to make the best use of it that we can. We need to make sure that from now until the time that we die, it is meaningful. And we must not let it go to waste. We must not let it pass by meaninglessly. And so this is really the main point of the meditation.
단도나 미다바 고마디 가르에 람기 심이 버레 손데 인두산에 아주 기부 충유게 람정원에 손데 디 가르에 람가 사주 런드게 바 디시도 미다바데 공고야지
The meditation on impermanence is like the foundation of all the paths. So from the time we enter the path of the lesser individuals, we need to continue to meditate upon impermanence as we go through the 5 paths and the 10 levels.
제 탐지기 나네 제르 치슈디 랑부지 제레스 벤 강베 제르 샤비나 강바 치슈디 랑부지 인장 데네 디기 제 샤비나 디 제데 치슈르 차노레스 아네 디난 제가 나네 랑부지 초임번나 신 아네 가르다 호라 최냠네다 망부차 디 나네 강 다 미다베 제데 초인스 제데 숨베 다 간다야 당부 미다바 곰바디게네 고가르 게졸로 꾸마차 로 최로 꾸발이야 게 가르르다 제 펜도 치슈르지 데 미다바 고마디 차데 알았어
Now, there are very significant reasons why we need, and purposes for the meditation on impermanence. Often it is said that the largest or the greatest of all the tracks is the track of an elephant, because an elephant has the largest foot, and so the elephant leaves the largest footprint or track. And so just as the elephant's tracks are the greatest of all tracks, so too among all of the different practices, among all of the different dharmas, the meditation on impermanence is the greatest. And the reason for this is that meditating upon impermanence encourages us towards virtuous activities. It encourages us towards the dharma. And so for that reason, it is the greatest practice that we can do.
아이, 나랑이 고르죠. 가라이나가. 다들 인도산에 다들이야 가르쳐서는 데 가르쳐해. 다디나 숨만에 신뢰인지데 믿어봐. 나주 있으면 믿어봐. 다들이야. 근데 여와 남니 숨으래. 다들 신뢰인지데 믿어봐. 꼴이야. 신여인지데 미다바들에 라베 미다바지다 차웨 미다바 넘버 니수송에 버래 라베 미다바데네 엔고 가르줘야 되지 오 지금 지된 시부기 가르고르다 고 시부 코랑기 청지디 송여자 다지 낭 차웨 미다바 송주산에 대대베다 지된 베나 디낭그 저불링 점불링 디낭 나로기다 베지 남다 뒤신 교와라 써봐 다디 가르래 지딘 실부긴 교도 될래야 라바드체 다 지딘 실부 디낭기 지딘 실부 디낭기 다 교와 찾아봐 다 디줄이야 차외입니다. 봐도 손이면
Now, here, when we, as is discussed in the text, there are two different types of impermanence that are mentioned. There is the impermanence of the outer environment, the universe, and then there is the impermanence of the inhabitants, sentient beings. And so, of these two, the impermanence of the outer environment, the universe, has two different divisions. There is the coarse impermanence and subtle impermanence. Here in this text, the coarse impermanence refers to the changes of time of the entire universe, the universe as a whole. Whereas subtle impermanence here means that within that, in particular, the changes that happen in the world, such as the changes of the four seas and so forth. And so in this way, the changes in the entire universe, of the entire world system, these are coarse impermanence, but the particular changes in that are the subtle impermanence.
大家俩，就这里边写到呢，前面呢，达到不的，这里边 theory 什么的，解吧，吹吧，我说的同样嘛的呢，的解吧，吹吧，前面呢。 And jidingi khamde thangbo dine Big Bang samara Big Bang barke chambo dinde jili dene ko kali jidingi khamde da kara thangma barke chambo chungwal dene chube gishi orba de Qur'ana midaba chambo shibuchi da kandar ji kar barke gi twenge samara da kandar dinde ji midaba chambo gyundo chambo shibuchi chungbo le dene jidingi kham Qur'an chuye bi bare dine rinpe shindu da kashwe da mangbushita shaya da dhrimachi di di se kola korangi da tsese samaro lose di da tungjuru da chingamido da hasangma chingamido da jire tsese da kora bilin kasheji bilin 빌린 주숨 써봐 다 드네야 어레다 다들 녀와르 치시다 다 간다 빌린 망보지 치야요 아래 다들 걸리 세 콜라디 당부 지 가주에 소 차베 소차게 비 시자로 시다면 되지 데르베시도 건준도 신이 and tade kalikale ko karjodal ji so chorrume da dindegi se kolar ji cha da deambil da nimajini ma dawajini mare losa tungjuru mangbuleya kole be shin gyuachimel dense and dada just dada sam da kada ko so charung dindegi cha da deya dangbo so chabe kaluya 당부 시주산은 춘항기 소자도 자드네 리메신도 감세 소자도 차베기 시야요래 다드네 마 연두산의 에너지 다이너소어 소머네 공주 거다 공주서 어딘산다지 진짜게 공주사디 다 공주기 뒤럽 이제 좀 안드네 리메신도 아는 노통기 오통기 에네 심지에 되게 피게 치네 dinosaur mas dinosaur de kandara koran genji le de ne dinosaur de ko zadong chi an de le de no 우통기 심쟁이 되게 피게자 고급으로 치토 아 되네 베신도 안지 대존에 봐 피게 줘요는데 산에 안 미세하지 나 고추비면에 다 이게 상월로 다가다 윤도 심해지 새 콜란디 가르스레 그런 내급질에 믿어 봐 그런 윤도 심은 쪽이에요 윤도 심을 때에 안 다당 안 주지 민주화 차 민주화 차인데 차요 이게 상월로 새 콜라디 무드니 그런 차번에 손 닫아봐도 그런 믿어 봐 교화침을 때네 안 다당 안 주지 저기 가르쳐야지 새 콜라 내리지다 지도 되면 세는 자도 소소롱을 세는 자도 다는 정말 좀 좋아미 대신들이 차이 말이야. 되게 상으로 거라 끼지 믿어봐. 준도하시면 되는 종이보다 세브샤래.
So if we look at the scientific explanations of these, the hypotheses, the theses, or the theories of the of scientists, which are some things they can't actually see, but what they have reasoned or theorized, they say that it's because of the Big Bang that the world, that the universe was formed, and this is because of a big explosion. The world was able to appear, and this is just a huge example of impermanence, and so we can see that because of this explosion, because of the Big Bang, it was the universe was able to form. And then gradually things formed, including the planet Earth. And this planet Earth formed, I'm not sure exactly how many years ago, but maybe 13 billion years ago. At any rate, many billions of years ago. It's not 13 billion years. Anyway, some number of billions of years ago, first the Earth appeared, and when the first Earth first appeared, it was not immediately able to support life. At first, it could not support life, actually, and it's through change that it gradually became a planet that was able to support life. It didn't stay still for a moment. And this change didn't happen quickly. It didn't happen in a day or two or a year or two. This is a change that took course over billions of years. And so it's over billions of years that it finally became a place that was able to support life. And then when life first appeared on this planet, there was aquatic life in the waters. And then after that, there appeared living beings on dry lands. And there are various ages. There's the age of the dinosaurs, and then following that, the age of mammals and so forth. The dinosaurs were made extinct by a certain condition or circumstance that happened, and that gave the opportunity for mammals to flourish. And then gradually we have come to the human age, the Anthropocene age, and so forth. And so this shows that everything is changing. The Earth has not stayed the same for any moment. It has been constantly changing, and because it has been constantly changing, we've been the human race has been able to appear. And so it's because of this constant change, of not staying for a moment that this planet Earth has become able to support life, and then the humans have been able to appear. And so this is just showing that this beautiful planet that we live on, that is able to support our human life, is something that has not stayed still for even an instant.
다들이랑 네 가수를 친구의 지대 안내진 간다 교화치니 간다 고랑기 지대기 감다 유니버스 somewhere 다들 지대기 감디기 다고 제대로 최바 세위미나 다다버도 최바 세위 준비들이야 안 팀분 좁게 하지 로 통준 팀분 좁게 하지 다 든지지 침바 이 최바를 지게 아래 다들 조조의 다른 쉬기 가서 왜 다른 쉬기 줄이야 된다 더면로 간다 달로 통준 팀분 좁게 하지 든지기 간다 로세 드리지인데지 시간에 다디 나로려야 지디니 감 야심부디 나로려야 은지 가서 가서 갤럭시 섬으로도 지디 사지스가 가서 다 장례인데와 이어비면에 저바체비나 qarso timbum gyalaz yares qarso timbum gyalaz da dishi yare adri dusane ta di nane ngaran suge ta da ji nimadan dawada ji sai kholala so da degi nime kimgi solar system dinne de segi ane qarso guzi kyamo sore milky way so ta kandra guzi omela me guzi kyamo di jakyo ne halebe chimbuju de ba da wege lo mbumji jakyo le ya ji jigi tane jigi talbadon rogona wege lo buncha ji rogres de shedwa rendus de gibi jakyo ba da luyu linde ba islamne digoro da de ji jakyo shushi yede bimbre da science class chada jido ine da ga da yen ya di zo da an zu tari di xia di zu ma so da tene di zu ba so le indu sana shin da zu shen de de su da da yang mi se da zu da le
So if we think about the external environment, the universe we live in, when we try to estimate the age of the universe, the world realm or universe that we live in, according to the best estimates these days, it is over 18 billion years old. And so this is an estimate that is based upon the furthest light away that has been observed. And so, at any rate, there is the hypothesis or the estimate that the world is 18 billion years old. Then, when we think about the extent or the vastness of the universe, then there are many galaxies in the universe, and these are beyond count. There's no way we can count them. So there's an unknown number of galaxies, but the estimate is that there are over 100 billion galaxies. And among all the different galaxies, the one that our sun, Earth, and Moon, the solar system that we live in, is found in, is the Milky Way. And then if we think about the size of the Milky Way, that is also really astoundingly huge. For example, it takes about 100,000 years for light to go from one extreme to the other. So it's about 100,000 light years in diameter. And so this is something that just is beyond our comprehension. So actually it seems we're starting to have a little bit of a science class this afternoon, but this is primarily because it's primarily for the monks and nuns. There are many of you who may already know this.
Adri indu sana da wege lo mbumji se du sana lapsa kwayas kemda wege lo mbumji se khas gore sta ado lo tena da nga chu phebal ya lo to mangu shi ba pu ngen le phe shung de phuluk lo to jik tene chu bu ji je chu ji lo to jik tene nga so di gare di bige shirab ne gyulu lo to jik 다 간데 치듯이 우마디 단도 딜레 망아요 자. 지 루드라면 망고요 그랬어. 이나 껍딜이야 디 루드라면 디기 시험은 다 껍딜이야 왜 이렇게 로스하데 가서 또 교세가 돈이 시어 다 왜 사는 교세가 돈이 시어. 저불이 지딘이 감디 가셔 보시다요 인상. 아주 남균체 겹겹지. 지 피드담 가르사디 되네 미저 다든데 세겹하면 다들 인도사 갑들이야 돼 외기 교세를 되네 어체겨 외기 교세디 남규배나 님의 외도 되긴 교세디 까르지기 나로리아 킬로미터 몸숨자 화즈지 로도 알았어 대인도사는 그래서 까르지기 나로리아 저불이니 꼬라 düğünden ça nga hlas bi gato waris weki karche chig nalol second chig nalol ta chazo igiji ma sanan da do second chig nalol segu ji to bi yun zum ji liya dene weki zobuli liya qora düğünde çağız gato waris ta dona 왜 요새디 킬로미터 몸숨기 하자 저도로 세겐지난 디완도 쉐빈 좀불리는 거라 뒤인데 상하지 저도 알았어 든지지기 요새 든지지 쉐데베지기 침비이나스 롬붐지 저랬어 요새 든지지 쉐데베지기 침비이네야 롬붐지 저랬어 디 로디 소디 아주지 니샤기 로직다 세샤기 로직 니예베 인두산에 조데 세샤기로 순제 주주량을 하스 저러다 주주량을 순제 주주량을 정하라 되네 가 순제 뒤지 하스 저데 세샤 드리미 뉴산에 다 디완 등기보다 든지기 다 세샤 조지니 세샤 근데 다 롬bun지로 그랬어 난 니지 가게 세 든지 여비
Now, when we say light years, that it takes 100,000 light years, it's very difficult to understand what actually do we mean by 100,000 light years. In the Tibetan tradition, we have many different traditions of astrology and astronomy. There's the Tibetan government tradition, the Purluk. There's the Sorpo tradition. There is the Sherabling tradition, or the Juluk, and there are many other traditions of astronomy. But when we're discussing these, we are not discussing this. We are not meaning it in terms of those. Instead, what we are talking about is the speed of light, and so. The size of the universe is so huge that it cannot be measured in our ordinary measurements in feet or meters or anything like that. And so instead it is measured by the speed of light. And so the speed of light is such that in a single second it can go 300,000 kilometers. And so that is that in each second it can circle the Earth over 7.5 times. And so, a second is about the time that it takes to snap your finger, and in that time it could orbit the Earth 7.5 times. And so if we were able to go at that speed, then in order to get from one end to the other of the Milky Way, we'd have to go for 100,000 years. And when we mean a year here, then among the different types of years that we find in the Tibetan astronomy texts, what we mean actually is the solar year, the year that is slightly over 365 days in length. And so it is in that terms that we mean. We are having discussion about how to translate the different Tibetan astronomical terms. So they may be 360 lunar days, which works out
170 something, 70 more than that. That's okay. Okay.
At any rate, it's one of those years, and in terms of those that type of year, then it is 100,000 years. So that is the distance that is the size of the galaxy.
아들이 인두스탄에 아주 다다 난걸래 통신에 차심심이 까르마 망부스 통디가 아래 디나 까르마 예슈될 저불이나 타 예슈기 까르만들이야 로가위미나 안로 다 밀린스 사야 회기로 사숨다 여기로 사슴 상아서 저거 알았어. 그러면 이 쉐딘 저거네. 여기로 사슴 상아서 저거 알아. 에 개디. 아 저기 간다 전부 그 구직 겸서 말해. 다디 가르쳐 딜레 셴 가르쳐 셴레 안 저거 총이미나. 안에 여기로 고 사몽고 that was go millions of years. 아들이 인도사 다가다 게 시야와디 딘지기다 야쳐보죠. 지den감. 지den감 야쳐. 디나는 안수네 밀키웨에서 야쳐보셔야 돼. 다드네 마지 삼담이미나. 아주 solar system. 니메 김규세라는 장. 단니 니마다 사당. 다 딘제기 가르쳐지 고 긴고로 쉬어야 돼 봐. 대인이나 야 시다버지 가르쳐지 전부 다 해야 돼. 들으시.
There are many different stars that we can see glittering in the sky, and yet the closest of these, if we were to go there, it would take us 3.5 million years to go there. And if we would want to go from this galaxy to another, it would take it is millions of light years away. Now, the reason that I am saying this is that the size of the universe that we live in is just huge. The Milky Way itself is vast, and the solar system, with the sun and all of the planets, is also quite huge.
바지 당안 나는데 님의 김규는做的 님을 님의 가견이 심으시다요. 안 좀불이 사지지 상도를 바지 드네르 진시 사지지 님의路上 상도를 진짜지게 야심으시다요 되듯이 다 디나네 다 될래야지 사 구스마로 사구바 고네 야레 사망우지 고네 야레 다디나는 아주 지 가주에 점물인디 믹세기 콜란을 직차디 야레 가레스나 셴다 민저 고란 채소 촌에 투비 다 간다 촌에 투비기 콜라 지구디 님의 김규나 촌에 투비 콜라 지구디 안 바지 저불인디 인디 야레 대점도 마세베 안 다도 봐도 지 진리베기 지
Within our solar system, the sun is the primary member of the solar system, and it is actually quite huge. 1 million Earths. If you took the planet Earth, that would take you could fit 1 million planet Earths within the sun. And so then orbiting it, there are the 9 different planets. And of these different planets, our own Earth is different than the other planets. The particular feature or particular quality of our Earth is that it is the only one of the planets that is able to support life.
딱 간다 점불인디 가르쳐다 점불인디 가다 미세를 차대요 아래 가르쳐서나 손에 두배 점불인 미세 차대요 아래 어떤 딘데 점불인 다 진치 지딩이 감 다당 아주 지 섬기미게 왜 되면 다 니데 저거 오늘 유도로 되게 버지 유한로 되게 버지 안 당보고로 주 되네 타만 직주에 버지 다들 인도스탄에 딱 안들 디기 고 가르쳐야지 간다 디 루규를 지딩 감게 저 루규스만 로다는 시어쇼는 다 간다 신앙사버시 처지네 지 신앙사버시 다 간다 디수 전부도 직주스탄에 나조든 직든 직성사로지 들리지 내다로지 나도 사대요 아래
And so this planet Earth of ours is special because it is the one planet that can support life. And so when we look at this universe, with all the innumerable world systems in it, it all was created, and then it remains, and then finally it will perish. And so when we think about this particular history or this particular explanation of the world, then it is really terrifying, because if the entire universe is going to be destroyed, then what question about ourselves? We will also perish.
Dang anzu da sosu zuru gyue da sosu ge sosu zuru gyue pama nian zhe da na xin kimze yume da na xin ge de ne ka shui chobong wa xie sang wo lo chen de tuan du nian de da zhe wa mang bu qie ya de 가두이네지 누슈의 경가체는 다 망고발지 선이 간데체 너니 간데체선 데데지게 데가르 가르 누슈다 네 가르에 듄럼도 챈디게 탑숑 챈디게 듄럼 경가체네 데데체네 딱고 디주도 도 저디게 아래 다 임비네 가지는 데가 챈딜 뉴람 잡숑 망고시 텔레야 수수기 미지기 다 나게 투주다 다나 신기 일단 너나 미지 유에제디 배실디 토라바 땅네 치버레데 이베나 다디기 지 가서 수수기 너바는 신지 너바 토도 바바지 중요하르베슬라나 아니 중요해 깔아가보시라래 진리지기 다 내가 토도 마밥 강에 침버지기 알아야 아니 지 소침바 섬으로베 진리지기 알아보 미진제소 망부시다야래 진리 뉴스안에 이제 내가 제심비 촐래야 아니 코시소사로 모시소사로 체계시소사로 녀게시소사로 다 진리지기 가지고다지 계시망고지 아주 과야. 아들이 누산 다 든지기 치와디 수수이 토라 가도 용거래 된대요. 다다랑을 내요나. 야면은 도공 원다 용거다. 선이 쇼베 용거래 된대요.
Then when we think about the inhabitants of the world, we sentient beings, we think we can look at primarily at our parents, our relatives, our neighbors, the people from our areas, our friends, our acquaintances, and we see that basically everyone is seeking things for this life, and they're putting a lot of effort into this. They work hard at the they work hard in order to gain things in this life. And so they're always thinking about, what am I going to do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? What will come in the future? And they're going through a lot of effort and difficulty, seeking things. And basically they are seeking happiness in this life. And as they work for the goals of this life, the time passes them by. And so in this way, they spend their entire life, the time period of their entire lifetime passes them, and they spend it entirely on this. But when we think about this, when does everything turn out? Do they meet the needs of this lifetime exactly as they wish to? It is difficult for that to happen. We hear about, and so these people spend all their time working for this life, and yet it is difficult to feel like anything will, we make anything of it, and we never know how long we will have. We always hear that, oh, he died, she died, so-and-so died, that person died. We hear much about this, and so we really do not know, when will death come for you? We really can't say, will it come tonight? Will it come tomorrow? When will it come? We have no certainty.
단도나 ngarineya thadaineya maungbarimbineya ta simji sudajineya mashiwa mishiwala deba jigya yomare dire indusane ta dindele ji mashiwa dedebachi 통화도 퇴바도 파샤네 티즘 이니산 예다면도 섬으로 되게 티즘 사대 갈라가버시다래 나 강갈라베 타취되지 아주 미진한 타취 찍어요 말에 나 타취에 찍어요래 가래서나 시규디 타취에 신다 타취에 찍어요 말 따가는 거네 가래래 노래 타취에 찍어요 타취에 찍어요데 시규래 내는 타취에 자 autism 자매보다 되게 차대 알았어.
And so in this lifetime, if we look around, we see that there's not a single sentient being who does not want to stay here without dying. And yet, have we ever seen or heard of or thought about anyone? Forget about even seeing or hearing of anyone. It's difficult to even have doubt that, or maybe have some idea that there might be a possibility of it. It's said in this life that nothing is certain, but there is one thing that is certain in lifetime. Death is certain. So there's nothing certain in this lifetime, and yet the death is certain, and there's no doubt about this.
What name in you, son? Today, Twane. Sene, she number member, number yam, number member, Zorro. Remission Zorro, the number yan. The Zorro ever in you, son, and Azuki, Neberto. The sunny nangy, my imbaches. Tade denton dinido, denton dini, tune dini, dusan dinido. 안다바 가수래지 가르치 기회나다 니니도 돼 가르치 최고 얼마도베 선인은 있을지제 근데 지 가르치 뒤주 남장시 알았다 지 친경시 알아 근데 그거 맵지 아주 성전나는 골집 투불에서
And so in this way, our life is continually being used up. It's coming to its end. There's no way that we can extend our lifetimes or add more time to our lifetime. It is being used up. And so since our lifetime is being used up now, we shouldn't say to ourselves, oh, I'm going to do that in a day or two, or I'll do that in a few days. If we really want to get something done, we have to do it now on this cushion, on this, in this session, on this seat. If we really need to do something, we cannot put it off till tomorrow. We cannot procrastinate till tomorrow or the next day.
Somebody have 2 years sequence. Some thought about Cheshire. Some thought about Cheshire. But the some getting in Chigu de Jelshana. Then it did the CJ. That were young. Gilu Yom Lake, you want to Shondra Yanga. Jezan Tinsan, Chuzuji artist. Chuzuji. Chuzuji have been to Chuzuji Kandajarsana. Susugi, Mizidi. Music Ganzang Koran Chuzu 뒤주디 지가 바나 소소 바나 로다 가제 되겠다 소소 쳐봐줘 로 제주 담아 대야 야나 뒤주 담아 대야 뒤주 전자 대야 지미나 고 주주디 로 뒤주 담아 대야 뭐 주주디 지금 드셔도 안 디사우다라 고 주주디 다 누구랬어 고 구줄로한 장가자여서 아니마 이놈아 주고다 구줄로 섬으로 다디 다들 내 인주산 딱 가져라노 다다 저한테 네베 로 뒤주 담아 대야이나 다다 니주 담아 로 니주 담아 친사로 딱 가져라노 그 땡을 대양고 까르차리 리시도 아니 그 주주디 가져라노 단도데 주주 까만 가져라노 그 땡이요 저 든지 주주지가 왜나 다데스 배통민 탁탁탁탁 요루에 땅아서 통고로 딱 까만 가져라노 당보다 망보를 지어야 돼 이면에 코 망보 지어도 여야 돼 이내야 코 로딩 예비인데 망보 지예비나 코 조로 아 드린 주산에 뒤균셀 되네 나 든지 추주지 알았어 어다 되는 시 간다르 추주 든지 예비나 나 추주 든지 알았어 그도 다 되는 되지 랍션
It is for this reason that the masters of the Kadampa lineage said that you need, when your intention and your action need to be at the same time. So when you think of something, you need to do it immediately if you really want to do it. If you first think of something and then say, oh, I'll do it later, I'll do it sometime later, then there's the danger of becoming slothful or lazy. And so now you have to, now if you want to do something, now is the time to do it. Because our human life is always passing away. It's like when you think about how long we are going to live, we might estimate that we'll maybe live 100 years or maybe 70 years. Well, imagine that we had a clock. If we had a clock that said, okay, this is the 70 years that you have, and this is the amount of time that has passed in these 7 years. And this clock only goes forward. You can't turn the clock back. You can't make the hands move in the other direction. You'd always know how much time do you have left. Say you're going to live till the age of 70 and now you are 20. Well, then how much time have you got left? And it shows you each second, each minute, it shows you how much time you were to have left. And so in each second and moment, it shows you how much time. And I think this would be, something like this would be helpful for us. We'd see how much time we actually have left. At first, we have a lot of time. It seems like we have a lot of time, and we do. But each moment goes by, and each of the many moments finishes and goes on.
드레인 주스타네 단 네번 조사 네번 조사 건 네번 유니버시티 심으려는데 기지만으로 찾았다 심geb에는 지키 기지도와 네번 망고지 신사를 되는 기지미 윤점으로 찾았다 다 마음반에 간다자 마음반데 마음반 의미하고 다 뒤주지 예배 지구도 가르쳐 다다 그래서 사다 쪽으로 내가 말았어. 마음이야 말았어. 다다마도야 말았어. 다다 쪽으로 했어. 다들 드린 주사디 주제되네. 고 최려 구자시 지원합니다. 이내양 엔도스라스다.
The past is over. It's done. In every second, every split second that goes by, it's past. It's done, and it cannot.
All the past when you've done lots of things, but it's feel like 1 second.
You may have done many things in the past, but each of them feel like they've gone by, like a single second. The future, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's not definite. So the only time that we have is now. The only time we can do things is now. The past is there's no past. There's no future. It's only the now that we have. And so thinking like this about impermanence is a real. It really encourages us towards the Dharma practice.
다들의 삼당이야 미다바디 지 소소 부수 도버르지 구 도버르지 라와메버르지 소지 징우도아 이 삼당이 디진데 미카시 삼당데 말데 미다바디 이거 다 델라바 나와 자연chen 도도스 바지 선바지기제 그래서 부수 도버도 땅마 삼당마당민도 사르드리고 이내야 미다바데고 고랑 가르스베 상초네 삼당베이미나 미답을 배우시라요. 미답을 배우시라. 빼나 샤샤비나. 초산의 샤비나. 아주 링부지 담이나. 링부디 깨라 토메망 고저다. 도레미파솔라 시드 가르다 하는 딱 한다. 깨기 땅 토메망 고스다요. 기시 링부디 깨 딱와 있나? 깨 지금 뭐 말아. 양가 깨 지금 뭐 말때 양가 저기만 하고 봤다. 링부 깨데 미다바 이미 인상 요아 망보진 좌에 인상 디균선 되네 년집 된배기 요구 망보지 걸 때는 영도고 여비지 드린 두산 디균선 되네 미다바 사디 고급지 미다바 사디 간다르 요아지야 좌에 여비지당 다가도 미다바 사디 고급지당 안다는 신기 발동으로 다 드립 샤dio 드림이 인상 안 소리야 고급이야 가두이미네 가르쳐에 까차리레스는 다도 지 가르쳐에 까마를 레이미네 안 소리 고급 사버도 요아도 엄마한테 내가 말아 알지 내가들 내가 말 내가 신다지 요아도 드림이 인상 다나셔베 미두자이나 도공고다 미두자인 거야 요 말해 요아 동초로 가 요한 누구하래 요아 동초로 하래 세들 미득진지냐 세멜 미겨와제 제조거래 가르쳐 미다바라 요한도서 그러 그 세들 미득진 세멜인지 미득진이고 사 가르쳐 미다바 이 미치 요한도 그래 인두산에 디균센데네 아주 가르삼 당으로서나 미다바 이발 때네 안녕 아주 요아동하게 고급이야 바당 요아동 초초 똥룽룽 다 들리지기 가르쳐야 전시지버때 아주 삼도 고야 돼 개좀 시라래 삼등기
So sometimes when we think about impermanence, it seems really limiting. It feels very confining. It feels like we have no that we have no control. And so for that reason, some people say, "Oh, you shouldn't think about it too much. You should be more relaxed. You should try to be a bit more spacious in your thinking and not worry about it so much." But actually, we shouldn't care about impermanence so much. But actually, if we think about impermanence in a positive light, then actually there's a great benefit to impermanence. For example, if you have a flute can make many different sounds, all of the different notes of the musical scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, and so forth. It can do all of these different sounds. If the sound of a flute were permanent, it could only make one sound. It would always be making it would only always be playing the same pitch. But because it is impermanent, you can change the pitch. And because you can change the pitch, then you can do all the wonderful melodies that you can play on a flute. And so for that reason, impermanence is an opportunity. Anything can change. Anything can happen. There's this opportunity at any moment. There is always a gap. And so we have an opportunity at any particular time. In every moment, in every minute, we have the opportunity to change things. And things don't have to stay the same as they were before. You might have been a bad person in the morning, but that doesn't mean that you can't be a good person in the evening. You can change. You have the opportunity to change at any moment. You may have spent the first part of your life committing evils and wrongs, but that doesn't mean that you have to spend the latter part of your life committing evil. You can change. We have the opportunity because of impermanence. Everything is always changing, and so even if you spend the first part of your life doing wrong, you can spend the second part of your life. You don't have to do that in the second part of your life. And so in that way, because of impermanence, things are changing, and we have always have opportunities. And so thinking of this changeable nature of everything is actually very important.
다나 신기 미다바사디 가르된 거 알았잖아. 아주 미즈사지 리리 도도르지 충두니 네버드사 리지 매바 미즈사드 너지나 다 가다르 지가르에 다다와사난 자도 네가 다대기 가르다 모멘트 다 모멘트 인지 벽에 잘라면 다 모멘트 다대기 가르서다 다대 끼지 마. 다대 끼지 마. 다 들지 인데버지. 드네 인두산에 미즈사다 가르지. 다대 끼지 마인데 미즈지 자대요. 미즈스두사 인지미지 대지 리무바지 고야스게요. 드네 인두산에 다대기 끼지 만딜래야 되는 데버 충분히나 미즈 되는 데버 충. 미지기 가르소에 미지 빼는 미지 찾아야 돼. 미지 간상들 디고사. 그러나 그 치가 나가기 치게 끼지면 되라. 거기 계획했으면 깨서는 거기 미지대 된대가 교사. 아들이 두산에 디규제 되네. 다디 인지 미지 두주를 무시지 고고 아스케만. 다들이 두산에 조조된 아주기 까르마치 추주지이면 디 두주디 미지치부지 뭐지. 드네 두시에 소지 대퇴하는 데 맞죠하게 매주제과데 개좀시라차데 드네 미두산 거기 담반남기 차시알 가려와르서나 니마지기 미지지 임바는 신 두시샤 소소 쇼벤 매네 야랑요에 겁라 아메 코베나 계속 섬을 두시샤 드네 공다 메세나 판 주에 겁라 아니 마르기 타말라야 데네 시송삼에 두시샤 드네 샤비미나 초지네 곧 니마 딱발 치워 미다바 그 유레 전에 전시 대야지다 다네시 치워를 접치네 고 디기 저집도 안사르디 용디고 니마 딱발 치워를 접치네요 초진이 알아서 치워서 드디 신앙사버지 지 가르쳐 치워서디 지 타만도지다 타마스 치워서 민버도지 인죽조도지 드디지 신앙사버지 마통마 빼나 나 드링 바니에서 선이 니만 샤요 근데 선이 남사 양결지 차요 알았어 서로 제대로 용거 봐 아다 디소로 제제 디 균센 토안에 아다 진짜기 냠내 챵이나 아니 치와사데 고라 정신기 치와사데 정신기 균도지 봐 대랑 아주기베 남규나시 샤나사고 싶지제 그도 망고 싶다 디 샤나사고 싶지 쇠제 아니지 가르소르데 지고 있게고 알아 진짜지 마요 디 정신기 균도를 지 봐 빼나 미세나 파니에바다 쇼베랑데 야랑데바 진치사데 든지기 지 개박스럽지 든지 통투야르지 용도 가버렸음 등게
And so in that way, when we think about impermanence, we see that this human life of ours is not a single thing. It's not a single event from when we're small until we get old. Actually, our life is now. Our life is in each moment. In this present moment, this is our whole life. And so we don't have to understand life as being, a human life as being a long thing. And so in this way, if if we make this present moment that we are in right now, if we make that meaningful, then our entire human life can be beneficial and meaningful. For example, if there is someone who spends his entire life committing wrongs, and then at the moment of death has a virtuous thought, that person's life then has meaning to it. And so we don't necessarily need to think of human life as being a long thing. We can think of each minute or each hour as being an entire life. And if we think about it in this way and make efforts towards spending each hour in that way, is very important. There's the practice that came from the old Kadampa masters of considering a single day as being like the entire life. So you think that in the morning when you get up from bed, that is like being born from your mother's womb. And then in the evening when you get back into your bed and go to sleep, that is like dying. And so when you do this, then there are many benefits to this. Then it is like every day you're remembering death and impermanence, and this becomes a support for remembering it in each single day. Likewise, it also has another benefit, because we often think of death as being something terrifying, as being the end, a final, the darkness, the blankness. And we are often very scared of it. But then if each day, we see that each day we go to sleep, and then the next morning we get up, that naturally things are changing. And if we can do that practice, then we can see that death is just a natural change that occurs. And so there is no need for us to make it into something that is terrifying, something that scares us. It is just a natural change that occurs, like going to bed in the evening. And so I think this will help us develop that sort of thought.
다더라 당기 권 시주래 미다바 고야사 저 미다바 고야사 나 지금은 지 나시그리 삼 데지기 동해가 코바잔데 버더지만 봐 다들이 아주 치워입니다 뒤주디 미다바 조원조고야 조원조고야 인자 대준세대네 고 가르쳐야 아주 뒤주를 탐진체 뒤주디 자심을 지지 고급디 탐진체 아주 아니 미지 된다 대바지 다던 니도 주고야디 주야게 던 진짜 배바게 준주게 다들 치워입니다 봤어 진짜지 뭐 좀지 다가스 짜는 시그리 지그리섬 안 되지 맨다 사치름다 사데 다들 저거마다 다들 치워입니다 비기고 린비산에 다들 저 니지 고요 다 다들 니 뒤주 바지 여드 뒤주 가자 주중가서 제가 보도록 해 아지 양디 양년 대바지 규다
And so, as I have said before, then meditating upon death and impermanence is not just merely sitting there thinking, I'm going to die, and surrounding yourself with the suffering of the fear of death. Actually, it means that time is changing. And because time is changing, then we can take ownership of the time. We can take ownership of each moment. We can take ownership of each each opportunity that comes. And in that way, if we make efforts and are diligent in that, then we can make our human lives have meanings. And so it doesn't mean that we just need to sit there in being afraid of death. And so I think this is primarily what we mean by meditating on death and impermanence.
다 주저 응아도 제가 보다 시야고도다 아니 내가도다 주저 응아도 제가 미다바 인성주의 주저된 좋아서
We have to keep going until 5:30, so the two of us has some work. Think if everything's impermanence, that the time would pass by.
ngānguma chūchūka ngūma ngē kiāntu shēsārwa ngā chūchūka dūsānada dīdi bēchatā dūzuyōr lōrīnziyā dūzū dī chūchū dīlēn dībādu lōnziyā dūzuyōr dādi chūchū jī bīkē chūchū chēmbu zuyōr dī gīgēn gēlā gyablo dī chūchū chēmbu shāyō bē chūchū kō 곧 두주신데서 깨장 통황 스키장 참자 기겐 치료리아 로는 봐 데즈 요르 다샤진 야 빼면 요부 쓰잖아요 데즈 아마 정아스는 요르다 이제 전기긴 드리한 요간다 좀 가야나서
I've said this story, I've told you this story before, but when I was young, we used to have a time, I had periods when I had to spend time doing studies and memorization, and there was a big clock that was right behind my tutor, and, when it came to the end of the session, it would go dong, dong, and so we'd know that it was time to go out. Well, sometimes my tutor would go out of the room for a moment, I'd get up and I'd turn the clock forward a little bit faster, not too far, because then he'd suspect something, but just a little bit, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then the clock would ring, and the tutor, my tutor would say, "What happened? The time seemed to go very quickly today."
아다들이 민주사네 다다리 비는지 가르에 주매 군시에서 말하다 내지 초도발을 다도 중월에 다대한 고급들지래 다 고급 아주 지원합니다. 버드시에 될 거래야 소다 아주 되게 최주의 고급 다 간다 되지기 고급들 중원이래 다 고급 중원 인주사네 고급디 탐진체 얘들 초나랍지 가리용도 사나 아주 다리 디 주매 구절 추배 걸이야 대단히 아주 디 통고를 써버는 들이야 그래서 고라게 통고를 동안에 누가한기 시링 라우라다 늘 가서 돼 around 들이야 아니 디 가장 담부 제비네 그 유선진 차상 탕가시마를 제그 유선진 탕가 차상 샤스김도 네 주산에 네 데로 나로마바 밀라 타고 되네 주지 뒤숨 캠바네 까마부 군지짐지행 시라마 잠바래 까마부 군지짐지행데 형구민도 르베도시데 형구민 직 형구민도 자자 르베도시데 안 잡로데 군르시에 인자 딘 리규체 안디 가르디 와디 잠여 말에 간다래야다 되지 가수리 탕가지 잠여 말에 디 탕가 도스 잠 가란데 데마 카고는 삼단 뉴스단에 다리 딘데 주메 구제 수야데 무슨나 땅 얘기지 가수리데 지금 권도 TV 계지체 얘기다 가수리데 딱 고급서 말에 주마소리 니지가 고급지 피비 계지르시 이메이네야 얘가 손아로도 간데 용도 쓰나 유네 지가 유일라마다 다나 신기지 양 까마봐 다 지중 까마보고 고마 탐지 얘기 가수에 네 이제 시엔 좀 되버려 지다 대다 탐지 얘기 에네베 진지 양지기 도안에 델레야베 갑교 다 안텔레야 가수에지 심슈 우마진발 우진사는 신기 심슈 진기여봐 다 드네게 손아로지 용디도 드인주사는 아디 지간 대지 차데 춘세점 나도 아주 인도도르체 지그 비게 춘세점 루지에 인비네야 은혜 전에게 강수 드네게다 간다르지 고급 상물 토야 다는 신기 드네게 지 때문에 용 배송차게 개발상을 용한디 에너지 다당 알아주 무슨도 주유도 막 유배 그 유기라마 고만남기 제 두개다 말람 대다 탐지 두개다 말람 대다지 배 구송부를 제시대 예대버지 되게 손아로지 용디도
And so now I feel like this establishing and starting the Winter Dharma gathering for the nuns is like an opportunity for us. So here when we're talking about death and impermanence, I feel like we have an opportunity to practice the Dharma. And this is an opportunity that we need to take ownership of. So the feeling I have is that on the one perspective, when we're starting this Winter Dharma gathering, is that first of all, the original plan was to hang the tankas of all of the lineage masters of the Kagyu lineage, but from around the balconies around the shrine hall. But they wouldn't all fit. And so we put up Telopa, Naropa, and so forth, and then from Dusum Khenpa to all the way down through all of the Karmapas. But even then, they didn't all fit. There was one that did not fit. And so Rangjung Ripe Dorje is on the throne behind, and so he is there in that way, and we didn't put up the Tanka in this way. And so here they're all arranged there, facing us. And so the feeling that I have is that now it may seem like it's me who actually started this Arya Chema Winter Dharma gathering, who's given you, and we've now been given the opportunity to practice. But the feeling I have is that this is an opportunity that has been given to us by all of the great masters and disciples of the Kagyu lineage, and I feel like all of the masters and disciples in the golden rosary or in the golden garland of the Kagyu lineage are all smiling at us, and they're expressing their support. With one voice and one melody. I feel like they are inspiring us. It's as it is said, to inspire those who have not been inspired. And so they're giving us this inspiration. And so this is the feeling that I have as I sit here up on the throne pretending to be someone. And so actually I feel like this opportunity that you have, it's a good opportunity to uphold and preserve and propagate these teachings. It comes really from the resolve and the aspirations of all the masters of the Kagyu lineage who, though they may not be visible, it is as if they are present here now.
Bena nimegi ta nimade kora kajwe ta nimare we shibjebeche ji chö shibjebeche dende jebi yimina zombuli liya ko nimegi we da chö di bena zum nga ji mendo ji pargo yimina nimegi we sirdang nimegi chö di jibeta me pardo yo 다들 가르고 그러서는 메시엔도지 셀도지 기요네 셔데 녀레는 때네 아니 니메베디 셔데 포디 녀레는 때네 거기 가져래 멤버도 열어 예 오늘 전에기다 뉴버르도 가르쳐 버렸잖아 멤버도 뉴버르디 조다 니메게 외서당 내 줘야 되는 충분히 의미래 이메네야다 내거기 겐서래 라도 지 디, 다 메시에 섬으로 셰이뉴바 다 텔데는 중대버로 디스서주와 다 드린두산은 안에 디스서지다 다 셰데 양고지 유기만은 셰 탭자지 메시에 탭자지 드르지 제다 조조데 뭐그 뉴바데네 당이 공도 쉬번는 신 야와서를 제바 라마 공원는게 가져다 두지 칠렙 안 드릴데는 중대미미지 이마다 세브스타르
It is like the sun. The sun has a tremendous, or sheds a tremendous amount of light. It gives off a tremendous amount of heat. And yet, if we want to light a fire in this world, if we want a lamp or light a fire with the light, no matter how strong the sunlight is or how strong the heat, we cannot light a fire just from the sunlight. So what we need to do is we need to get a magnifying glass, and when we have the magnifying glass, then we use that to focus the light, and the light is focused on tinder, and that tinder then can burst into flame. And so where does the power come from? The power comes from the sunlight, the heat of the sun and the light of the sun. But the circumstance or the condition, the temporary condition, is the magnifying glass. And so I feel for myself that I am like that magnifying glass, and not even a good magnifying glass, just a sort of shoddy sort of magnifying glass. But the power comes from the compassion and the blessings of the great masters of the past and their heirs. So that is where the power comes from.
Today we do sanda maungbali minea. Tang achi woman, tang ye casual ji casual tang ye to some the maimba. Tang maungbali minea ji the Gavambo Gamaba Kunji Tako casual chizik part of Shungu Binia. The that Hamjigi energy Tuji the Zawadi in Gumicheva. That is Simjet Hamje. The Pomea Meva, Simjet Hamzelea, G. Yore. Not the on Misse, that is Zuma Solia, a deletation Kashreji, Tuzi Chile, Gumiseva, Ceremony Serap Hamjedo, Jinjin of Jungre Summer, Tang around Tingo. That's all the 가지고 다지 지당이 양 미래를 체인 주산다 주메 구주를 수들 체인 주산 양 가시 듣기 때문에 신인들 유기래 다지 투기 다르 독다르 사람보다 님의 다르 사람보다 다지 다망보 년 다르 사람보다 망고 셔 유기래 다이네 디술이 캬주 가지고 지고미 돼봐 가라 조디 수수기 이제这个다 고급디 송세 다지 라바송기 냠래 취의 투미를 챘네 상기기 때문에 진용변성으로 두 세비입니다 안에지 겨와서는 제베기 공부이네야 대인버래라 지주 공부는게 도공한디 강토예비브레 내주산 딘데 토안에지 로 대참으로 니지가 토안에 아니 못이네 지 공부 누구를 채제 아니지 때마다 줘야 된도 가서야 다 수수기 승구로 첨부지 랭과데 계속해서 도시아인
And I think that this is not just something for my own time. It's not just the time, my own period, but also as long as there are karmapas who come into the world, I think that they will continue this with their compassion and their affection. Generally, they have the compassion for all sentient beings without any bias or any division between male and female. And so I think especially for nuns, their compassion and their blessings are continuous. And this is not just for this lifetime, but for lifetime to lifetime, from generation to generation. And so when we talk about this winter Dharma gathering, it's possible there will be people who will say that, oh, this isn't a good sign, it's a sign of it being a degenerate age or a bad time, this is a bad omen. But you should not heed this, you should not fear this. The main thing is that you need to take this opportunity and practice and do the practices of the three trainings appropriately in order to uphold, preserve, and propagate the teachings of the Buddha. And if you do this, this is something that will become beneficial for the teachings and for sentient beings. And doing this, that is the wish of all of the Buddhas and their heirs, the Bodhisattvas. This is the wish of all the great masters of the past. And so I think gradually, this is something, if we take ownership of this and do this, it is important for us now to take responsibility, to take responsibility for doing this for the benefit of teachings and beings. 다양 부드즈 랜도 다양무다 다 자성 가서리
Okay, no, it's okay. Finish, over. Mosquito is coming. Okay.